we're going to open up the buffet Vegas style because Ken Wiebe's here, hydrated as always, and joined us now. Wiebe, what's going on? I see the locale of the buffet has moved a little bit today. You're setting up shop in the basement of the rink?
Yes, it's great to be with you as always. Beautiful Friday here. We are deciding to stay at the rink today. We got a little bit of writing to do after Pierre-Luc Dubois speaking about the potential for his future. Spent a lot of time in rinks this week, so I didn't really think that the 20-minute drive home and back was necessary today.
Well, let's get to Dubois right off the bat because, I mean, we've spoken about Pierre-Luc. There was the report last week from Elliotte Friedman. You were asking him a number of questions today. I'm not sure I really believe any player when they say they haven't thought about their contract at all. That is exactly what he did have to say. What did you think about the what did you think about that when you heard yesterday, or when you talked to him today, and what his reaction was to the season as well as what's to come once the game against the Kraken's in the books on Sunday afternoon?
For sure, Hustler. First and foremost, hard to imagine you having a good time and being around the action in somewhere like in Vegas. I actually liked what I heard from Pierre-Luc Dubois. Again, you always have to be somewhat, you have to have the antenna up when you're having these conversations, because it's not often when you have an individual come out and say about their future, yeah, sure, you know what I'd love to do? Just, give me the contract, fill in the numbers as you see fit, and we'll get it taken care of. I mean, that's not the way things work. But what we did hear from Pierre-Luc Dubois are some of the things that are important to him, like playing with good players, like a Kyle Connor, being in a situation where you feel comfortable, being a place where you want to plant your flag. So for me, Huss, I think that you would be, if you're a Jets fan, you are at least moderately reassured after, hearing the reports from my colleague Elliotte Friedman that his name could be out there. But as you and I both know, Huss, there's a difference between having your name out there and having a trade made immediately. The Jets have been backed into a corner plenty, and they rarely make a trade that they're not comfortable making. So I've said this from the very beginning. I believe there is a fit between Pierre-Luc Dubois and the Winnipeg Jets, and I think there is motivation to get a long-term deal done, and I think that they will get that done this summer. I mean, if they don't, I would see it much more likely seeing a one-year deal for Pierre-Luc Dubois than him being traded. That's my personal assessment. I like the things he said. I mean, about daydreaming. He said he's not leaving anything to chance. So even though he hasn't thought about it a lot during the season, he's going to be giving it a lot of thought in these next weeks and months. And he's going to want to hear some things. I think we talked about the importance of Mark Scheifele's exit meeting. Probably the second most important exit meeting, if not even, maybe 1A and 1B, to use the term we've talked about at the center position. Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be the one that wants to hear some things about the direction and about where things he sees himself fitting in long-term with the Winnipeg Jets before he locks down long-term. I think he didn't come out right out and say it. He said he's interested. I expect to see Pierre-Luc Dubois as a member of Team Canada at the World Championship. I think that'll be a great experience for him. We already talked about the ownership he's taken with the Jets, taking a leadership position. After you've had a frustrating team season, even if you've had a strong individual season, going to an event like that where it's a little bit more, yes, it's a casual atmosphere, the way the tournament is spread out, but being in that Hockey Canada environment, I think is something that will help Pierre-Luc Dubois as he prepares for next season to build on this season. He's had a great year, 28 goals, career high. He's probably going to get to 61 or higher. But now after that, it's about reaching new heights and getting to a new level as a player. And that's why I think the World Championship will be helpful for him as well.
Hey, just on the Worlds for a minute, how many Jets do you think we might see?
It's a good question. I mean, Josh Morrissey's saying, given his personal situation, he will not be attending. We had a couple guys mention the injuries. I think a guy like Kyle Connor would be a great fit for him to go to the World Championship. I don't know about Connor Hellebuck. Obviously, we know there's the new baby still. Will he be going? I think the Jets will have, I think Adam Lowry, again, I think he's one of the guys that is on the radar for Team Canada. We'll see what the final lists look like. I would say there's going to be a handful, Huss. We know Ehlers is going, obviously. I would say it could be in that 3 to 5 range, I would expect, but still a little bit early to tell, I think. But I think that's a valuable experience because we've seen it, guy after guy, the frustration level evident. Josh Morrissey, again, expressing his frustration, but saying that there's still belief in the better, brighter days ahead for the organization. Any guy that can go to a scenario where you kind of get your vacation is going to be long enough. When it's a 4-month vacation, Huss, adding a 10-day trip or a 2-week trip to go to Worlds, super valuable, at least to get you in a good headspace to kind of wash away some of the bad feelings. And then when you get back to the motivation of training for next season to ensure that they don't suffer the same fate next season.
Ken Wiebe with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. I could use a 4-month vacation. I think I'd just stay here and keep doing what I'm doing right now. Maybe mix in a few shows, some guests. You could jump in with Remus for the next 4 months. And
I'm going to tell you right now, you can sign me up for a co-hosting on site. If you get onto the 4-month plan, you can sign me up to be your wingman.
Oh, that would be phenomenal. But again, it's always great to have you on the program. And we've been focusing in on the draft here certainly last night, but paying close attention. And I want to get to the upcoming Stanley Cup playoffs with you in a minute. But sticking with the Winnipeg Jets right now, the other big news over the last 48 hours was the signing of Chaz Lucius. To me, I'll be honest, I mean, especially the timing of when they announced it all, it did catch me a little bit off guard. I thought there was a very good chance that he'd be back with the University of Minnesota. He did a video call today. We're going to hear from him a little bit later on. But maybe what did you think about the fact that they got him signed? How positive is that for the Winnipeg Jets? What does that mean for him going forward? And I'm not sure whether you were on it, but what have we heard from Chaz Lucius about the decision and making that move to professional hockey and being a part of this organization next year?
Yeah, it's an interesting call on a lot of fronts. And Huss, as you know, I did have a chance to see him live at Grand Forks this year against UND as a member of the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and I really loved his game. He's a very cerebral player. There are some similarities to Cole Perfetti in terms of how they get around the ice and how they think the game. Chaz, more of a dynamic shooter and an absolute sniper. Drafted as a center, but he played most of the year on the wing. He endured some injury issues this year that limited him to the 24 games, and unfortunately for him, it cost him his experience at the Frozen Four with the Golden Gophers. But still had a strong year overall. The sense that I got during the year, I spoke with Bob Motzko, his coach, after the game in Grand Forks as well. It seemed like this would be more than a one and done, but a variety of factors always play in or whatever else. And I know it's important for Chaz to be an NHL player. And I think that even though University of Minnesota, they're going to have a great year with Matthew Nyes and company going back, I think for him to start his career at the pro level next year with the Manitoba Moose, we know, yes, he'd have an option to go to the Western League if he'd like to, but I expect him to start the year with the Manitoba Moose and to start his pro style. I mean, and then I think because of his age, he would fall into that category where he would be in that first entry-level slide situation unless he played the 10 games. But again, I'd have to verify that. But given his age, I think that's where they would be looking. He's a guy who can really shoot the puck. He had a bunch of injuries that maybe impacted his skating a bit, but I like the fact that he's ready to play a longer season and to get himself ready sort of on that upward trajectory to get to the NHL. Now, the other interesting angle there too, Huss, a lot of people thought he would be staying at Minnesota. His brother Cruz, who was a highly rated prospect for 2023, has also committed to the Golden Gophers as well. So thought it would be similar to the Tucker Poolman situation, where instead of turning pro, he wanted to spend that year playing with his brother Colton at North Dakota. So obviously he's a guy that had some, he's got incredible upside. He dipped a bit because of the injury history. This injury had nothing to do with his previous injury with his, what he was dealing with before. So I know that folks are always concerned when it comes to injuries, but this is a guy that's a really high-end talent. And the fact that he'll be joining the Manitoba Moose most likely next year, I think would be a positive step, both for the player and for the organization as well. Because we know they have more defense prospects that are close to the NHL than forward prospects. So to add to the pool, I think is very important. And sorry, I had one quick one, Huss. Sorry to go to the buffet here. I went and watched the first period in a bit last night of the Moose game. I was hoping to see David Gustafsson, but I did see Daniel Torgerson, and I thought, what an impressive individual. He really skates well for a big guy. Now 2 goals in 2 games. I liked a lot of what I saw from him. And Henry Nikkanen as well was impressive. And obviously, Ville Heinola took that big hit, but had an impactful game as well.
Well, hey, listen, I want to ask you about Torgerson. Actually, it's a perfect little segue to this because he and Nikkanen were signed. They've gotten some time in the Moose. And I'll be honest, I wasn't familiar with this before, but I guess there's been a rule change with the agreement with the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation. And Torgerson does have a contract that extends until 2023 with Frölunda. And from what I understand, that if you're not a first-round pick,
right,
you can't be sent to the American Hockey League. So can you clarify what his situation is going into next year with the Winnipeg Jets and playing in North America as opposed to going back to Sweden?
Yeah, it's something that was brought up, but I was talking about it with Dave Nuke at the game last night. Obviously, Elliot Friedman mentioned it in the 32 Thoughts this week as well. I've not talked to the Jets. I don't know if there would be a potential for a loophole situation there, or I don't know if there is a loan available. But I mean, based on what you had said and what the rules states, it sounds like NHL or Frölunda for Daniel Torgerson. But I don't know if there are other arrangements that can be made. We know, again, the American League has rules that were kind of bent a little bit in the last couple of years because of COVID. I don't know that. And again, live viewing in terms of game action, I'm not here to say that Daniel Torgerson is a lock to make the Jets. I think it would be, if the organization could play him with the Moose, that's probably the best place for him. Short of that, I don't know what the other options specifically are, but it sounds like Frölunda would be most likely. But again, that's something that we'll try to get some clarity from Kevin Cheveldayoff when he speaks to the media, which we expect to happen on Monday.
I take it from watching the 30 minutes last night, you're not ready to pencil him into the opening day lineup for next season with the Winnipeg Jets?
I liked him. I liked a lot about his game, Huss. He brings a size element. He gets on the puck well, gets on the forecheck. He can really shoot the puck. He skates well. But again, I mean, we don't know who he would be competing against for the job. I mean, we saw that the year when a similar situation applied to Christian Vesalainen, two different scenarios, but when he had the out clause to be able to go home, he did make the starting lineup that year and, got an assist in that first game in St. Louis. So I think it's too early to predict. I mean, I think Daniel Torgerson will look a lot differently today than he would after a potential 2-month run in the Calder Cup playoffs. I think he's closer to the NHL than some think, but we know that he's not going to be rushed into the NHL. So even if those are the two only scenarios available to him, but I do think he's because he's been playing in outside of North America, he's one of those prospects. When we say there's not a ton of forward depth, he's someone that you don't forget about, but it's one of those guys that he hasn't been front of mind that I think is a guy that can help the Jets in the not too distant future. I would not expect it to be October, but again, at his age, you just don't know what the summer of development is going to be like, how long the Moose run goes. But this guy brings a lot of qualities like what we've talked about. The Jets have a lot of players of similar background and stature and what they do well. Torgerson would be another one of those guys who has some skill, but would also bring some size and some skating.
He's a big player, isn't he?
Right, yeah, and he has some finishing ability as well. So again, I would never rule out a player at that age, because at that age, the development goes quickly for some, and for others, it's not just a rocket ship trajectory. But this is a player that's going to be a player on the Winnipeg Jets in the not too distant future. But again, he would be one of those guys that you would have in pencil, but I would have him probably outside the 13 forwards to start. But there's another guy that can win a job, right? We've seen this over the years. Sometimes someone comes in, has an unbelievable camp, and can steal a job from someone. The one thing I would say, Huss, we've talked a lot about maybe who could play with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton. To me, Torgerson is a guy that fits that kind of a mold. Yes, we expect Morgan Barron to have the inside track without knowing who else may come in free agency or via trade. But Torgerson would be a guy that over the long term, I could see him fitting in well, being a double-digit goal scorer, but playing in that kind of responsible two-way role with those two players.
Well, and one of the other things that I think we have to acknowledge is that, I mean, a lot of that's going to depend on who's calling the shots next year, Ken. I mean, I think there's, clearly there is plenty of possibilities as to who might be behind the bench next year. And, the organization, assuming that Kevin Cheveldayoff's the general manager, which I do, they'll have some say in who's making the club and whatnot. But at the same time, if you have a new voice and someone potentially from outside the organization coming in, they will want to be putting their stamp on the team. And certainly training camp next year, if you do have a new guy that's sort of not with the club right now, I mean, it changes a lot of things for a lot of players. And those young players, I would suggest right at the top of the list.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I mentioned Gustafsson earlier that part of the reason I went to the Moose game last night was to see him play. And he's a little bit banged up, it appears. So Torgerson and Gustafsson would be a combination. We know we've talked about this the last couple of weeks. The Jets need to play their fourth line more. So, but I just don't see Torgerson being in a fourth line kind of a role as being best for his development. So he would have to kind of win a job on that third line in order for it to make sense. But you're right. Opportunities will be knocking. And again, if you're a guy like Evgeny Svechnikov, yes, you've had a good year in a lot of ways, and you showed well in a top six role at times. But where are you going to fit in with the new guy? I mean, that's always important. And look no further than Jansen Harkins getting the late season audition on the top line, for a guy who spent most of the year on the fourth line. I mean, how does that fit for next year? Could he be somewhere in the middle? Where is he going to end up? Is he going to be back with the Jets? I mean, we got a lot of uncertainty with a lot of players, but opportunity is certainly knocking. Some guys taking advantage of some late season opportunities, and there will be others who will be in competition for jobs, whether that's with guys in the organization now or guys that will be brought in.
Oh, man, Kenny, this has been a great chat. We hit a lot of topics, and always fun having you on the program. Of course, Jet fans and hockey fans have 2 more regular season editions of K&R coming up this weekend. Why don't you tee up and, of course, let people know if they've had their head under a rock or something like that, where they'll find you guys, and get ready for tonight and, of course, the finale on Sunday.
Yeah, hit us up on our YouTube channel, the Kenny and Rennie YouTube channel. And just thanks to the viewers and listeners, not only of your show, but of ours. It was for season 2, it was our 100th show on Wednesday night. We wouldn't be doing it without the support of our sponsors and without the people that have been watching and tuning in and have that great engagement. We'll be Friday night here. We'll have a show, and then Sunday after the game, and it'll be a great chance to share some thoughts. We haven't decided what about the playoff preview show / exit meetings. We're not sure about that exactly, but should be a fun stretch ahead here, us with hockey continuing both in our province at the junior and AHL level, and obviously the NHL playoffs will be something we'll be looking very closely at. And as I sign off here and wish everyone a great weekend, I will not do so without congratulating our good friend Dennis Beyak on his pending retirement from the Jets regional broadcasts. As you know, salt of the earth human being, and as great as he is at his job, Huss, he's an even better mentor and friend, and I know he's going to be missed greatly around these parts, and I know that he's going to enjoy retirement, or semi-retirement at least. Again, a great weekend to salute Dennis for everything that he's done during these 11 seasons with the Jets and over 5 decades in the sport.
No, amen to that. And I'm trying to figure out a way that I can PVR the game remotely so I can make sure that I have Dennis's final broadcast in. And we've spent a lot of time, and basically half the show turned into a Dennis love-in yesterday, both with us talking about it as well as everyone in the chat. He will be missed. And just think about this. Media-wise in the city of Winnipeg, 2 legends retiring in the same year, with Bob Irving leaving the Bombers booth and Derek Taylor coming in, and I would offer out that there will be a similar pair of Shaq-sized 22s in the booth for somebody to fill in next year with the absence of Dennis. But as great of a broadcaster he is, he's an even better guy, and we certainly will miss him being able to listen to him each and every game. But he's going to be enjoying his time, and I know he won't be far away, and he'll still be following this club. Absolutely right, Huss. You nailed it right there. There's no doubt about it. Have a great weekend, dude. I'll look forward to getting to my hotel room at whatever time I get in and firing up Kenny and Rennie and see what you guys have to say. It's the best part of the YouTube and the podcast thing. You know what? It doesn't matter what you're doing after the game. Even, when I would go out after Jet games, I know you guys are waiting for me when I get home with the full wrap-up of the game tonight. So even here in Vegas, I'll be doing it this evening. Enjoy the game. Have a great weekend, and I can't wait to chop it up with you playoff style next week. Yeah, thanks for the commitment level, Huss. And next week I'll be rocking that good-looking Winnipeg Sports Talk hoodie. Remus did drop it off this week, and I can't wait to be wearing it proudly next week. Well, excellent. I should apologize to a couple of the other guys. I know Beyak and Mike, I've got them, and I wanted to do it on Saturday before I left, and I neglected those responsibilities. So I'll make around when I get back. Have a great one, man. Looking forward to the show this evening. You too. Have a tremendous weekend, and enjoy the rest of your trip, my man.